So once again, my name is Eloy. I work with these guys. I really like my job. And one of the things that Glenn is always pushing us to do when we're learning new technologies is he's always pushing us to make a presentation on it. He says that's the easiest way to learn something. He's right, unfortunately. And that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so what I would like you guys to have when you leave here today, and I'm hoping that the presentation won't take any more than maybe 45 minutes, is I would like for you guys to be capable to traverse a website, extract information, transform the information if you'd like, and then save that information in a persistent format, such as JSON or CSV. I'm stumbling here. You can also save it to a database, but I will not be reviewing that today.
Is this going to be posted somewhere, this video?
This video will be posted. Don't know where yet, but we will share the link inside of the meetup group.
What about the code?
The code, yeah, I can post it up. I'll put it on GitHub, and then we'll share the link on Meetup as well. Cool. Good questions. Okay, we'll start with the beginning, I guess. I'm not gonna do a whole lot of. I'm not gonna do the pip install because Stag's Head doesn't have the best internet, but I will show you the commands for it. The very first thing that I would recommend is making a virtual environment. If you guys aren't familiar with virtual environments, that's beyond the scope of this presentation, but I do suggest that you guys learn virtual environments. The good news is it's not going to deter you from doing any of this stuff right now, but it is a great technology to learn, especially if you're going to continue to invest in Python. The other thing that won't be covered is Git Repositories. Another great technology, worth learning. And you'll see me using it, but once again, it's not going to limit you from moving forward inside of this presentation. So the way that you make a virtual environment, once you're set up, once again, and we can probably do a class for this, is here. I'll start from my home directory. If you're all set up, you can actually just make virtual environment, and I could do something like meetup. And this would actually put you into a virtual environment. The only thing this really does is it encapsulates me so that anything that I download that's Python-centric is going to stay in this one environment, and it doesn't affect my other projects. Okay, cool. And because of this, then what I would actually do is do a pip install, and I forgot.
It's probably just Scrapy. Yeah.
So you can, okay, so you can do, and here I'll explain all of these and why I have them. Scrapy is the big one. That's the actual framework that we're going to be using. Service identity, this is going to nag you. Scrapy is going to nag you about not having this one. I'm not really sure why it's not a dependency, but it has everything to do with identifying your machine whenever you're actually requesting information from other websites. So I just recommend that you download it. IPython makes the shell a lot nicer. They just have a lot of just convenient features like it'll tab autocomplete and stuff like that. And then Pillow, you don't necessarily need, but if you plan on not only scraping text information, but also downloading images, Pillow is going to be required. So once again, this will be in the code, and this will be in the video, and this will all be posted in the meetup group. So once again, I'm not going to run this because, internet. Okay, cool. Now, the thing I will show you is I'm going to actually jump into the virtual environment that I've already created. And what we're going to be doing today is scraping Reddit. We decided that this morning. Okay, so I'm switching over to that virtual environment. You can see it here. I've already done my pip install, so if I do a pip freeze, you'll see something like this. It's Pillow, Scrapy. Scrapy is built on Twisted, and that has everything to do with asynchronous, which I know a little bit about, very little about. But don't worry if you don't know Twisted or asynchronous. They've got a nice wrapper around it. You won't even notice it. Okay. The next thing you want to know, now that you've installed Scrapy, is you want to get familiar with the command line itself. So if you do Scrapy -H, I don't even think you need the -H, honestly. It'll give you the available commands. Out of the available commands that we'll be messing with. Oh, see, it says more. So I'm going to do it without the H.
Essentially do a command in H.
Oh, okay, I see. More commands available when run from project. Oh, okay. There you go. More commands available when you run it from the project directory. Okay. One of the nice things about Scrapy is it gives you a lot of convenience commands. One of the convenient commands is, I'll stick to the meetup idea that I had earlier. So I'm going to go to my code folder. And my code folder, I have some stuff. Normally, I would make a directory and I would call it meetup. But because Scrapy comes with a convenience, a lot of convenient commands, I'm going to use theirs. So one of them that you use is Scrapy start project, and you would do meetup. And what this will do is it'll create not only the directory, but all of the directories and files that it needs inside to just get you started. That way you don't have to worry about creating any of them. So new Scrapy project meetup created. It even tells me where. Very nice. And then it tells me that I can get started with my very first spider once I go into the meetup into the meetup directory, and then generate my first spider.
So they crawl this site?
No, the only thing this has done so far is it just made some directories for me and some files.
Oh, I'm saying the spider.
Oh, yes, the spider is what will be crawling the site. So, yes, I'll try to repeat the questions. I forget sometimes. So if I do an LL now, you'll see that there is a meetup directory. I go into the meetup directory. I open this up. It has a Scrapy config file. If I go into the next meetup directory, you'll see that it's got even more of a hierarchy for you. It's got items, a pipeline, some settings, and a spiders directory. If you go into the spiders directory, it's going to be, for the most part, empty, because we don't have any spiders yet. So this is as far as I'm going to take this kind of directory stuff for us right now. And I'm actually going to go to one that I've already created. I'd like to write it from scratch, but I don't have that much faith in myself, and I know I'm going to be fighting a lot of bugs if I try to do that. Okay, so I'm already inside of the Reddit directory. This is, once again, just a directory. This is the exact architecture we were looking at earlier. I could probably delete this one.
What editor are you using?
Say that again?
Sublime.
Sublime. This is the Sublime editor. I highly recommend it. I'm not someone to convert people, but use Sublime.
That or PY genre.
I can actually delete this directory too, because I did not show you that. Okay, so this is what we saw earlier. We saw the project name. This is a Sublime thing. It just needs it for its projects. And then we saw a spiders directory, an item, a pipeline, and settings. Okay. So the very first thing that we're going to do to get started is we are going to, okay, so it created this entire structure for us. I promise you, I'm not lying. Actually, here, we can go to the meetup one. So you can see it from in here. So you can kind of see it's the exact same structure. If I go into the, oh, nothing in the spiders, right? We talked about that. So for this one, we'll actually generate a spider. And the way you do that is you're gonna make your very first spider. Now you can just make the file, but once again, they have convenience features, so use them. Gen spider. Oh, let me show you one more thing before I do that. Because you're like, how did you know to type in gen spider? Now that we're inside of this specific Scrapy directory, Scrappy. If I run this again, I get more commands. It recognizes that I am inside of a Scrapy project already. So some of the new commands that you might notice is like gen spider, list, run spider, crawl, stuff like that. Okay, so we're going to use the gen spider one. Gen spider, and then what you give it is whatever you want to name your spider. This is just a way for you to reference it. I'll just call it, oh God, anything. First spider. And then you give it the domain that it's going to hang around in. So created spider first using template basic and module.
It just plugs in the website name.
Correct. So now whenever I go to this, my directory full of spiders, you'll see that there's a first in here, and this is what it built for me. Like all by itself, I didn't have to type in. Well, except for the command that I typed. The easiest way to explain this is spiders are the instructions. You tell it where to go, and you tell it like what information to extract. So first is just the name that you use to reference it. Allow domains is kind of like, don't get out of this domain. The reason you want something like this is because once a spider starts, you could potentially hit a Facebook link, an Instagram link, who knows what link, and then end up outside of your domain, and then your spider will never stop. It'll never finish. It'll just keep going. And you're going to make a lot of people mad. I'm sorry?
The subdomain, could you change?
It's a list, so you could probably add.
It's a list. So you could, I mean, if you, I don't know what if they had an org, I guess you could. But yeah, you could even, I mean, because it's just a list, you could put whatever you want on here. If you wanted to go to Facebook, I
I
guess you
think you're
could.
referring to a slash. No, sub, aren't you?
No, like
The sub is.
You're talking about like
between the www.
Oh, so this yeah, if it's
Like blog.reddit.
Right.
yeah, correct. You could do that. You could even, if you wanted to, if you trusted yourself and the website itself, you could do this, and it'll respect it, and it'll just do anything with the reddit.com. It'll do any subdomain at that point.
So handle regex or anything of the sorts?
That is actually a very good question. I don't know the answer to that, but we can look it up afterwards when we're done. I'm gonna write it down. Regex for allowed domains.
Or patterns.
Yeah, or patterns. And then the start URL, you are actually just telling it, hey spider, this is your starting line, this is where you're going to go from. I don't know why they use tuples for this, but a list for the other one, maybe because it looks pretty. But it's the same idea. If you wanted to, start from another URL, you could. So if you did something like that, I don't know, funny, you could start from that location as well. So it'll start from both of those locations. And then it gives you your parse. Parse is where you're actually going to take the response from the website and then start extracting information. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to show you this guy first, just to show you that I'm not lying, that I didn't write extra code beforehand. Like, for the most part, this guy does a whole lot for you. Now I am going to go to this one because it's commented out. I don't have to remember a whole lot of code. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to reddit.com, and then we're going to start at Pix. And the very first thing that we want to do, just to go ahead and get started, is we want to traverse the website. That's it. That's all we want to do. We don't want to extract any information out of it. We just want to traverse it. Actually, let me show you one thing before I do that. We're going to just go ahead and hit the site. Let's do, we're at the meetup one. That's Reddit. We're going to do Scrapy, crawl. Oh, you can also do this. You can list out the spiders that you have, or not. Cannot import name pick item. Line 5. Oh. Doesn't like that. Oh, okay. I can just do this.
Just coming out there.
Yeah, there you go. Doesn't matter. You'll always get errors. Shower thoughts, of course. Who wants that? Spiders. Shower that. Is it going to keep bugging me? Yeah, okay. So what this is a list of spiders that I've already created. One is called pick, and the other one is called shower thought. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to actually crawl the pick one. So we haven't really given it any instructions. This is all that we've given it. All it knows is there's a spider, it has a name, it has a domain, and I want you to start here. It doesn't know anything else. So if you run it, what it'll do is it'll go ahead, get you guys familiar with the output. This may be too big. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. You guys let me know if it gets horrible. I'll leave it there. Okay. So here, what you really want to pay attention to is you want to pay attention to what it's crawling. So it's crawled 0 pages, and then finally it does get to something. It gets to the Pix page. It was referred by nobody because that was the very first site that we hit. As soon as it crawled that site, it finished, so it stopped. And then here are some statistics that it gives you. So it knows that it downloaded, one response, sorry. So this will just kind of get you familiar with the output. And of course, you can also specify the logging if you don't want this much output. But for right now, because we're learning, we're gonna go ahead and stick with all of this output. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to traverse. We just want to traverse the site. Here, we'll write from scratch. Shouldn't be too bad.
What's the difference between crawl and traverse?
Oh, sorry. I'll use the word crawl because I'm using them interchangeably. I shouldn't be doing that. Now, there is a difference between the spider and the crawl spider. The spider was originally made, and the spider's entire goal was to go to make one request and parse the information from that one response. That was it. And then somebody contributed the crawl spider, and what that one does, it's a lot more robust, and I think it's actually one of the biggest strengths of Scrapy. It continues to extract links, create URLs, make requests, and then get the response, and then once again it does the same thing. It extracts the link, makes a URL, makes a request, gets a response, and it just keeps doing that for as long as it can.
Spidering every URL available.
Correct. It's going to keep going until it runs out of links, and it also keeps in mind any duplicate links. Any links that it may have traveled to already, it won't go there anymore.
And it keeps in the domain.
And it keeps within your domains, correct. So with rules, what you do is you give it the instructions. You tell it what patterns to follow, what link patterns to follow, and then after that you tell it what function you want to use to parse the information out. So we're going to make a rule. Link extractor, and then all I wanted to do is, let's stick with this. So for this, once again, I feel bad because I know there's a lot of stuff that's not going to be covered here. One of the things that won't be covered here is regex, regular expressions. But regex are used to pattern match characters, and it's used to, that's mostly what it's used for. And you can use it a lot for searching and replacing text. In this case, we're using it for searching. We're searching link patterns. I'll go ahead and explain the regex that I'm going to write here. I am literally saying any character, as many as possible, or as any number. I'm sorry. So any number of characters. That's the limitations that the link has. So that's pretty much any link.
But the link extractor specifically goes after links.
Correct. It specifically goes after links. Yes. And these are href. If there's any kind of fancy JavaScript links, it's not going to detect those. So let's see if it traverses. Hope it does. So it's just going to keep going. It's literally just finding links and just walking through. Now, once again, we are limited by our internet, but I'm going to go ahead and stop it before they kick me off. Stop. Let's see if it did it. And then I don't want to make it too small. Yeah, that's fine. So I think it's still trying to stop itself. It doesn't look like it's going any further. But you'll see things here like filtered offsite request too. So there was links inside of Reddit to Nintendo, Dromball, Joel on software. And all of these things, it prevented itself from actually traveling past those because, once again, we're limited by our domain. But you can easily see that it found a lot of links, and it just kept going and going and going. And that's exactly what it does.
Is it possible to turn the debug off?
It is possible to turn the debug off. The way you would do that is there's two ways to do it. One is in settings. You can specify your level of logging, and then the other way is, I believe, inside of the actual crawl, there's an option. So your log level here. Now I'm only going to keep it on once again because I want you guys to see all of the output. But yes, yeah, you can definitely make them a little bit more quiet. So that's it. That's literally what it takes to traverse whatever website you want. You make a project, you generate a spider, you give it a rule, you're done. But we're going to get a little bit more conservative with this.
While you're doing that, could you scroll up so I can see the imports? Yeah.
Oh, the imports? Sorry about that. And these are all native. Scrapy. This isn't any kind of custom stuff. This one we actually don't even need. So.
When I created it, didn't give me those imports.
It did. Okay. These are the imports that it gives you. Where was it? The meetup. It gave you just the Scrapy one.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing for this is, I mean, there's several ways to go about this. I've gotten into the habit of going to their GitHub account and looking and to see what other options they have. They also have, and actually I should mention this because it's a big deal, I think. They have great documentation. They have really nice documentation. Where can you learn about that? I think the easiest place to learn about that is in the spiders itself. Yeah, they have some examples too. I'm really scared about clicking on links because I know they take forever. But the examples actually do a great job of walking you through regular spiders and then crawlers. But anyway, I'll let you guys do that. I won't bore you with. You guys can read. I won't read it for you. Sorry. Oh my god. Here we go. Cool. Once again, I'll do my best to post this up on GitHub so you guys can get a copy. So yeah, it's just the crawl spider, the rule that we use to give it a rule, the link extractor, which is very nice. All you do is pass it some regex, and it does it for you. Okay. So this is our more conservative regex. It's specifically going to the pics directory. And then you might be asking, how did you get that pattern? How did you even know about that pattern? This link that I'm specifically targeting right now, this is, I'll tell you exactly what I did actually. I did this. I went to Reddit. Actually, I should probably just travel. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Should have started loading that at the beginning. I went to the Reddit page, I right-clicked on the item that I wanted, and then I did inspect element. I scrolled down to the very bottom of the page and I did this. I did right-click, inspect element. And then I found this pattern down here. And then I literally, this is the actual thing that I did. I copy. Oh, no, they don't have pattern in there. And then I pasted it, and then I just kind of, I used it to make my regular expression. I said, okay, it's got a count equal to, and then this is, some number of digits, and then this is, alphanumeric characters and underscores. So I was like, okay, cool. That's it. That's literally what I used to find that link. So the only thing this thing is going to do here is, do I need a comma? No.
It's going to go through every page.
Correct. The only thing this is doing is it's literally paginating through all of the Reddit, through all of these pages. So let's go ahead and watch it do that. So this is a little bit nicer. It's not as crazy. I hope it didn't stop. No, it didn't. Once again, at the office, this works much faster. Here, at least, we can actually watch the output. But you can see that it... where's the page here? Okay, here. It started with the first page, which is count 25, and then 50, then 75, then 100, then 125. So you can see it's paginating. Okay, so that's traversing, or that's going through the pages. What's the next thing I want to show you guys? So fine, we're going through pages. That's great. That's amazing. Let's actually do something with the information once we get to the page. And the way that we do that is we give it a callback. So whenever it gets a response from this URL, I want you to call this function, whatever is in here. The function is going to be called parse item. You can give it whatever name you want. The other thing that ends up happening whenever you give a rule a callback, I'm not sure why it does this, but it immediately assumes that you want to stop on that page. It assumes that you don't want to keep going. So one of the things that you'll have to do whenever you give it a callback is you'll have to tell it to keep following. That's something that's very important. Like, it took me a while to figure that out, which was pain. Okay. And then here, we'll start a new one, just because that one's already got a bunch of stuff in it. Every function that is a callback gets a response object with it, and that's just the response that you're getting back from the actual site. So what we'll do just to kind of show off is we'll do response URL, so you guys can see what the URL is of the response. And then what I'll actually do is what you were mentioning earlier. I'll cut the logging down. Actually, is there a way to do no log? No log. Wow. Well, there you go. I don't think I knew that one. Okay. So what it's going to do is it's going to paginate as normal, and then whenever it gets to a page, it's going to run this function. And the only thing this function does is it prints out the URL. That's it. A much cleaner output. So we'll go ahead and stop it. If you want more information, we can do, there's headers. If I can spell headers. There's body. Let's do headers. Wow, that goes faster. It's interesting. So you can get all kinds of information from here.
Is it in a JSON style?
That's the way that it outputs it, yes. Yes, it does.
Dictionary.
The dictionary, I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Paul. It's a dictionary of information. So you can get anything you want out of there while you're traversing the site. So the next thing worth noting here is whenever you're working with response, one of the nice things that you have is you have selectors. There's two different types of selectors. One of the selectors is using XPath. I never realized how much underlying technology was in this. So, because I mentioned regex, XPath is something that I don't use very often, but XPath is a way of targeting elements inside of a markup. So I'll just use an example. So all I'll do is I'll say, give me all the divs. This is going to be messy. It's okay though. So this is all the divs that are coming out of those pages. Don't do that so often. And I heard we had a front-end designer around here. So something that might be a little bit more comforting than XPath is it also has CSS selectors. If you use CSS, you're probably a little familiar with CSS selectors. So this is the same case. We can do, actually, let's target something a little bit more. Inspect element. You think this thing has an H1? Let's shoot for an H1. Let's see if we have one in here. It does. Cool. So what this will do is it'll return back a selector class. If you want to extract the information, it doesn't completely extract it to a string, but it extracts it to something a little bit more readable. So that might look a little bit more familiar. And actually, it looks like there's several H1s. It's not good, Reddit. So yeah, it'll give you a list of anytime I found the H1 element in there. So that kind of gives you an idea of how you can start working with this.
Is there a way for the callback to tell the crawler to follow a particular link? So rather than following all the links that you pattern, you found this one that you want to follow next? Like if you were looking at a document where they...
If you already knew the exact links that you wanted to follow?
Well, if I could determine what it was from the response, once I parsed the response, I realized, there's a page 2 of this article, so I want to go to page 2 and pull the text from there.
Oh, okay. So that you can do. One of the easier ways to probably do that is you'll notice that rules allows you to have a list of rules. So what you could do is you could just give it another rule and then specify that new format in here. And I think maybe moreover what you're talking about. So let's say that this just does the pagination. And let's say this link is a link to an actual post.
Yeah.
And you wanted to follow that link, then I would put that pattern in here and then give it a different function to follow. So you can do that.
There's an automated way to do it?
Like a dynamic link?
The
Kind
problem
of?
is this is just looking at all the links, and it's not, I'm looking for the particular link that relates to the page that I'm looking at. In other words, this is a little scattershot.
Okay. If you're...
I was just looking to see if there was something in the callback that would inform the crawler.
Okay, so what you can do is this is a little. I don't know the actual. I mean, I won't go through. I'll kind of pseudocode it here. But what you can do is all these are requests. They're specifically Scrapy requests. So what you could do is you could, once you found the link, like let's say the link was hiding in whatever, h1 div a. I mean, that's where it was at. And actually you wouldn't be able to use a CSS selector to get the actual URL. You'd have to use XPath to get the href attribute. So you probably do something like h1 div a href. And then it would actually grab the href for you. Once you have the link, then what you could do is you could actually make a request, pass it the link, and then inside of there you can make another callback to another function. So you could do self, another function, and then from there you could handle it in. And now you're handling any kind of dynamic link that you may have found. This would have to, does it have to return? No, it doesn't have to return. It just has to do the callback. So you can do this. Now this request item, where is it? Let's see if we can find it real fast. If we can't, it's okay. Scrapy? Oh wow. I think it's an HTTP. No. Oh, here it is. All right, I'll do one more search and then I'll let it go for now. But that would be the idea.
Search the source from the top.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Glenn. Spider 3 handles request. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Yeah, it is. So you would do something like this. And then, yeah. And then the request allows you to pass a callback, and then that callback would call this function, and then that one can do whatever it wants. So you could just keep going as far as you wanted. So yeah, you can. Great question. I didn't even think about. I mean, I knew that there was a request object. I knew that it had a callback, but I never thought, hey, let's use a dynamic link. Or let's use a link we just learned about. Okay. I'll delete that for now. Okay, let's move ahead.
So this HTML you're getting back,
Yes.
it's just raw HTML, like it's basically like a curl request.
Yes.
So so is there any way? What if you have some JavaScript that adds elements?
Great question.
Does that skip it?
Scrapy is not the tool to use if you want to account for JavaScript. I would strongly recommend Selenium. We have it's spelled exactly how it sounds. It's not funny spelling or anything. Selenium is less about traversing websites and more about action and reaction. So you can actually give Selenium instructions like, travel to URL, click on element, whatever, A something, and it'll click on that element, and then the browser will react a certain way, and then you can tell it once again, click on this, click on that. And that's the kind of the nice thing about that is that does account for JavaScript because it's actually using your browser. Yeah.
You mentioned on the website that you can scrape any site unless it's using API. Is this answer if the site is using API?
Yeah, exactly. If it's using I'm sorry. So if you're not using an API, I recommend Scrapy. But if you specifically need JavaScript to be loaded on the page for you to get the information that you need, then I recommend the Selenium route. One thing that I do want to show you in regards to what Scrapy sees, because I mean, like, obviously when you turn on the browser, you see certain things because JavaScript is enabled. Now you could go in here and disable JavaScript, but rather than do that, one of the nice features that they have is they have a view. Is it pick or pix?
I think it's Pix.
Pix? Yeah, pix. if you do this, what this will do is it'll return back what Scrapy sees. Unless you know how to use the command. View, options, URL. Oh. Punk. There it goes. No.
It's debugging, so it's probably going to return.
Oh, it's literally loading. Is that what it's doing? Web service listening. So this should return back the markup that you would normally see.
Could just be taking a while.
Yeah, I think that's literally what it's doing. It's just taking its time, which is amazing. Okay, I'm not. Whoa. Oh, okay. Oh, I don't think I knew that it opened up an HTML page.
So,
There it goes. This is your page without JavaScript, is what it does. It downloaded it, stored it in a directory for me, and then loaded it in my own browser.
I mean, that's probably the easiest way to figure out what links you are and are not able to select.
Correct. Exactly. So this is a way of kind of circumvent.
So it would make sense to view it in Scrapy first, and
Right.
then figure out your selectors afterwards.
Correct.
Because
And
you wouldn't be able to tell from the DOM whether it's JavaScript or not JavaScript from the browser side, if you're in the browser.
Correct. Now here's another convenient feature that they have for you. One more. Well, a lot of more. They have that one, and they also have a shell. But I think with the shell, yeah, you could just do shell. So if you do a shell, what it'll do is it'll go to the page, pull down the information, and then populate specific objects for you. So now we have our response. Ticks. So instead of having to do all of your debugging here and try to figure out, try to kind of guess what you're pulling, you can do it all from the shell. So I can do response.xpath.h1. Will that work? No, of course not. H1. So there's all my stuff. I can extract it. Actually, can I do?
Why do you have to do
Oh.
//
It just starts from the root when you do that. Yeah. So these are a bunch of
A // says at any level
at any level.
down. It's like, if you just said slash, it would only look at the top level.
Okay.
// says for all
Throughout the whole thing. See, and I'm actually you probably know more about XPath than I do. I'm actually more familiar with CSS, but yes, this seems to be working pretty well. So there you go. We're extracting all of our H1s, and we're doing it real time. So this is going to help you a whole lot with actually figuring out what you want to parse from the page itself. Now, once again, I recommend CSS just because it's so much easier. Like, well, I guess once you get down to this, then it gets weird. Is this the right thing? Yeah, that's the right thing. Pick your poison. Yeah, you pick your selector.
So CSS is easier, but XPath has like more options.
Yes.
It's more powerful.
Exactly. So if you wanna grab a specific attribute from an element, or you grab specific nodes like text, XPath is much easier doing stuff like that. CSS kind of it comes out short. It doesn't have all of the features that XPath does.
Still do selectors with brackets though, right?
Yes.
Like bracket name equals.
Yes, you can do that. So I don't know any of the.
Well, like if you did.
So like if I did one of these, so now I could do.
Do like the one with class choice.
Yeah.
They all have class choice.
Do they? Well, that doesn't really help us. But yeah, you guys get the idea. So there's some.
Could you mix it up? Do like .css to a point? And then,
You can actually mix it up. Once again, great question. You can do that.
Nice.
You can toggle between the two. And my understanding is in the background, what they're really doing is whatever you type in here, they're just converting it to XPath and then using XPath. So I felt kind of bad when they did that. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. All right. So, okay, let's get to the parsing part. Once again, this is exactly what you were asking earlier. I'm using a CSS selector here, and then I'm using XPath. Once again, just because, I think this is easier. The only things that I'm selecting are, well, actually, let's start off real simple. Let's do, let's do the title. So this guy came out of nowhere. Pick item. I haven't talked about him at all.
It's your own class.
It's my own class, correct. If you guys have used Django at all, you may be familiar with the Django ORM. What you want to do is you want to create, this is a file that they did create for us, an item file. You make your own object. So this is your object model. Now, unlike Django, it's not as robust. There aren't specific field types. It's very easy. You literally just say field. And the only thing field really is, it's a dictionary-like object. So they just put a couple of things in it that prevent you from arbitrarily adding keys into it. It's what they really did. It's the only thing they really did. For right now, we're going to start off real simple. We're just going to take out the URL. Now, the reason you want to use items provided by Scrapy is because Scrapy knows how to work with its items. So later on, you can use this item, and then you can transform information out of it. You can also easily make exports out of it because, once again, it's a nice kind of container to hold your data, and Scrapy knows how to work with it. Exactly. Okay, so all we're doing is right now is grabbing the title. That's it. So let's go ahead and do that. Whoa, let's get out of here. We said no log.
I think unless you print item, you're not going to.
Right, exactly. You're not going to see anything. So this is what happens. It's doing stuff and you see nothing. Is what
It works.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it means. That's what it always means. It means it's working. Because you're not printing and you're not logging. You're not doing anything. But yet all of this stuff is happening in memory and it's wonderful. But like it all goes to the void once you stop the process. So we created an item. This is kind of going backwards, but I'll show it to you in this order either way. Scrapy, crawl. Let's see what options we have. We have, okay, so we learned how to crawl a site. We kind of learned how to extract information from the site. Now what we're going to learn how to do is actually make an output file, like save this information somewhere. Very easy stuff. You actually just tell it where you want to output to. And it already comes with specific formats available, CSV, XML, and JSON. We're going to do CSV. So all we would do is, I still don't want to see the log, but I do want an output. And the output will be in a file, I'll just call it export.csv. Now the reason that it's capable of doing this export for me, once again, is because I have it in this nice item container that it knows how to work with. And I'm populating this item container right here. I make an instance of it, I populate the title, and then I return the title back. No output, of course.
Well, let's go to the file.
Right. So did it finish? Maybe. I'm gonna force stop it, and let's see if a file got created. Oh, export. It did. So if we open it up, oh no, there's nothing in it.
You,
Yeah, let it finish.
yeah, you just use a dash as opposed to.
Yeah, let's leave the debugging on, just so that I can see what's going on here. Okay, so it looks like it's exporting stuff
Yeah, probably killed it before it wrote the file.
before it actually. Let's try it again. There it goes. So it doesn't like you when you make it shut up. So there we go. We got a bunch of titles. We exported them. And I mean, Reddit on the first page has 25 posts. You can clearly see here we have more than 25 posts. So it's sitting there paginating through Reddit and grabbing all of these different title items.
Is it?
Go ahead.
Did it cache your paginations? Because it seems like either Stackset Internet just
Sped up,
got upgraded to 45 megabits,
or it's going faster.
You're crawling a lot faster.
That's That I don't know. It could be caching. It could actually be caching the.
And
I don't see why they would do that though,
do you have
because
the clear cache.
yeah, because if the
Where would it store?
I don't know the answer to that honestly.
It's just really weird how fast it got all of a sudden. And then,
Speed test.
Maybe it was just titles you were plucking out?
Yes.
but it's still
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
load the whole page to
Yeah,
work out
that's
the
only
title.
like small amount of HTML.
Either that or somebody synced their porn with
Somebody stopped finding in the room.
That's gonna be another one of those questions that I'm gonna have to look
Get
up.
lucky every once in a while, right?
You would just hit the right, because I mean, I would that would really suck honestly if it cached, because like the website's changing and you're sitting here downloading like the thing you downloaded an hour ago.
I was freaking out a little bit because Dax had internet never gets fast.
It never goes that fast.
Yeah, it usually gets slower.
Well, it'll be in your virtual.
Like you're gonna ruin the demo now. It's just gonna stop working. That's it. We have to go home. No more learning.
It was all staged.
It was on stage. Okay, so.
Are you even typing?
It's been a video this whole time.
Okay, so the other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab the URL. So let's do that. Oh yes, look at this. You guys are teaching me. Items. Thank you. Actually, let's try that out and see what happens.
Let it fail.
Maybe it'll just dynamically make a column.
So, right, it just makes it for you. So it goes to the URL, it crawls it. Oh, it breaks. Why does it break? Pick item does not support field URL. This is what I was talking about earlier. It's a dictionary, but it limits itself so that you can't arbitrarily stick keys into it. So you have to specify.
Just automatically add it.
Correct. So, okay, here we go again. All right, there it goes. Gonna stop it. And then once again, we haven't been really looking at the stats, but you can see here response count, 3 of them. So it got 3. It got all. Yeah, it got through 3. So that's 3 pages, not 3 items. And then you can kind of see some output here. This is the title and this is the URL. So now if we open up the export, this is kind of interesting too. What the export automatically does is, let me see if I understand this correctly. It doesn't run over your files. What it will actually do is it'll append to the files. So it's your responsibility to remove those exported files. And it does it on purpose because it doesn't want you to lose data, and it, I guess it thinks this is the nicer thing to do.
It's so nice.
It is nice. It's not a mean program. I'm sorry about using numbers, guys. So did we get what we wanted? We got titles, but I don't see the URLs.
They were at the bottom.
They were on the other one.
On the other one, you passed it.
Oh, okay. So this is the URL, and then I scroll, and there's my titles. Okay, there you go. So it's got both. Okay, cool. So now you guys technically know how to crawl a site, parse information, or extract information, and make, save output. You'll notice here that when I did output export CSV, I didn't have to tell it what format. It realized what format it was from the from the extension. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we actually told it JSON, it would automatically know to put it into the JSON format. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it again. And then we're going to open up the JSON. Oh, I don't know what opens up that. So I'll use Sublime. So this is the exact same data in a JSON format. Once again, this is work that you did not have to do. It did it all for you. Very nice framework. So we saw that when you used export CSV and we ran it twice, it kind of appended the files. That's nice, but it's not super nice. It would be nicer if you could actually put it in a separate file, and maybe if we could use our own scheme. So rather than specify the export here, what we can do is we can specify the export in settings. Correct. So I can tell it, where is it?
Yeah,
Here we go.
that's nice.
So now you don't have to pass it via the command line. No, if you do specify it in the command line, it will overwrite this that has priority, but this is going to be your default. So you'll notice here that it's going into my Reddit directory. It's going into a specific directory called logs. There's 2 keywords that it comes with naturally, or built in. One is the name of the spider that you created. In our case, it's called PIC, P-I-C. The other thing is the time at which the crawl happened. So we'll go ahead and watch this happen. You asked if I could format these? What do you mean?
Like, if it passes the name and time, can you format them? Like, because time might come out in some format that I'd rather be in a different.
Oh, you want to change the format itself? Okay, yeah, we can do that. Let me go ahead and run this one first. In this specific case in settings, I'm not sure why it works this way. If you don't specify this, it assumes JSON. So if I did this, I would just get JSON style text inside of a CSV file, which is kind of weird. So this feed format here is very important.
How the script is interpreting in advance.
So so all of these settings can be found inside of their documentation. You would just go to settings. And they give you a whole long slew of them. We won't go through all of them because there's not that much time, but there's a lot of them. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. We're going to do it without this because once again, we don't want to overwrite the output. The other thing, actually, I shouldn't have done that. The other thing I want to show you is there is no logs directory, even though I tell it to put it in a logs directory. Look what I did. Cool. So here we go again. We're extracting information. And now if I do an LL, you'll see there is now a logs directory. If I do, what was it? What format did it? CSV. So open logs. It put it inside of another directory called PIC, which is the name of my spider, and then this was the actual timestamp. So I can go ahead and open this, but I won't. If I crawl again, because time doesn't stand still.
Different times.
Correct. I should have a different timestamp in there.
Logs.
Yeah. So now it's having trouble finishing because there's 2 different files in here now. And you can every time you run this, it's just going to continue to create log files for you, which is very nice. And I mean that's great for auditing and debugging later. This is actually what I used when I was making all of this stuff because it's much easier to read the output in a file than to have to read it, standard out every time. I'm going to go ahead and open one of these files just to prove to you guys that I'm not lying, that it really did create a file. Whoops. What do we want? 3? Okay. So you'll see there. Here's your URL and here's your title once again. I'm gonna start closing some of these. Delete. Delete. They're just piling up. Yeah, Mac is weird when they do that stuff. For some reason, whenever they open a numbers file, they've created a numbers file and you have to delete it. Okay, that was exporting. Okay, I'll show you guys one more thing and then I promise to let you go. And that is transforming your data. You've extracted the information, you're able to persist it in common formats such as CSV or JSON. Now, maybe when we grab the information, we want to do some extra stuff. Oh, actually, sorry guys, one more thing before I move forward. You were talking about this and you wanted to format the time. You can actually go to your spider and you can pick any attribute, like whatever, my attribute, or I guess I'll say my property. I don't know. Some file name. I think you could do it. So I'm inside of the spider and I just made some arbitrary property. Whenever I go to settings, I can actually put that in here and it will use that for me.
So if you run it twice, is it going to override?
Yes, it will run it. It will overwrite it. Unless I update it. So I'm going to do this. It's going to do what it normally does. Go back to logs. And you'll see some file. Some file named .csv. So to answer your question, yes, it will override the file. So you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm probably not going to use that. That's not very useful. The great thing about Python is that you can make anything into a property. So oh my God, how do you make a random anything? A random anything. I just want a random integer.
Random. Dot.
Do you know?
You have to import
Choice.
You have to import random.
And then you give it a list.
Give it a range of 0 to whatever.
10.
Just do random 0,
Yeah.
1, 10.
Would rand int
Yeah.
Yeah.
like that?
You can do 0, whatever.
You have to specify.
Yeah, you have to
Give
give
it
it
a
a
range.
range.
A range?
0 to.
100. So instead of putting some static property, we'll get rid of that guy. You can just turn a method into a property. Oops, whoa, don't do that. So now it's going to use my property. My property, yeah. So,
It eventually override.
Yeah, you need to import random.
so what? Oh yeah.
Small range.
Oh yeah. I'm telling you guys know more than I do. Import random, and I'm only gonna take the time to put it up here because it's gonna drive me nuts. Okay.
Oopsie.
Okay, we're gonna crawl. See, now it's giving up on us. Okay, there it goes. Oh, yeah, that's right. And there's our 36. So yeah.
What about saving files from the page? Like if you want to save all the pictures from.
Ah, great question.
It's a pillow, right?
And that leads us to our pipeline portion, which I promised you, and I will get out of all of this. Man, you guys are good. I feel like I.
So now it's like what to do with what you parsed.
Correct. What exactly? What are you gonna do with this stuff?
Property.
Oh, thank you. Was it time? No. I don't
Yeah, it was
know.
time.
Yeah, it's time. Okay. So yeah, what do you want to do with the information? And the way that works is there is a setting called item pipelines. This one exists inside of this structure. It's Reddit pipeline. Now this number here is literally the number, the order. It goes in ascending order. Is that correct? Yeah, ascending. So smallest to biggest. And they recommend anywhere between 1 and 1,000. So whenever you make a new property, a new pipeline component, you tell it in what order it goes. So I'm just using 100. It's a nice number. And then I go to the pipelines file that it created for me. If we go to the meetup one, we can kind of see what it already came up with. So this is what it built for you automatically, just to give you an idea of what it looks like. And this is the one that we're going to be working with, the one that I've kind of done a little bit of work on already. And the way the pipelines work is there is a specific function called process item that is required for the class. And that function gets two parameters. One is item and the other one is spider. Item is the item that you spend so much time creating, and then spider is the actual spider that did the parsing for you. In this case specifically, all I'm doing is I'm converting, whenever you store items inside of the item, it stores it in this like list type of thing. All I'm doing is I'm really converting it to a string. That's all that I'm doing. And then I'm uppercasing the title. And then I'm saving that title into its original place, and then I'm returning the item. That's it. That's all that I'm doing. So what should happen when I run this crawler, indents.
Your return just indented.
Oh. The only small disadvantage to Python. What did I do?
It's great.
There it goes. Yeah, that looks right.
You need to indent again on your item.
Oh.
Return was right.
Man, I'm the worst. Cool. Okay. So I did that. And now what we should see is a CSV file with a bunch of capitalized titles.
Are you going to scream all the titles now?
Yeah, it's going to yell at you. Oh no, I don't know the latest time.
That's 10:29.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
Yeah, that looks right. Oh, and I don't want to log. I want to open. So there it goes. It's screaming at you. So this is just like a very small thing that you could do to your information. Of course, you could also do other things to it. You can extract integers, work with data types, whatever you want to do. Doesn't matter.
So if you had two items in the pipeline, is one getting the output of the other, or both seeing the result?
The way the pipeline works is the pipeline processes one item at a time. Does that?
Is it passing, like,
Go ahead.
is it kind of like a filter, you know, passing from one pipeline item?
Oh, yes. So whenever I specified instead of settings, I specified this one pipeline and I gave it 100. When I specify another pipeline, like let's say I were to do this one and I did 99, this pipeline would go first. The item would run through that function first, or that class, and then after that it would immediately run into the next one.
But does the first item possibly transform?
If it transforms the item, the second one will have the transformed item. Yes, the context will keep correctly, and yes. Okay, so you'll notice that this one, and I promise I'm almost done here. This one was created by us, and then this one is actually a convenient one that was built by Scrapy, and it's given to us. So we're going to go ahead and use their convenient. Somebody asked about downloading images. They went ahead and took care of that for us. Now you can dig into their pipeline and like scope it out and then customize it all you want. But because once again they built this nice feature for us, we're going to go ahead and use it. The only specifications for this nice feature, and I can show you inside of the documentation, they even say download item images. This thing will walk you through the exact things that you need. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, but if you want more details, it's in here. The things that are required to use the image pipeline is installing Pillow, which we did via pip. It needs that for the image processing. You need to tell it where to store the images using a setting, and then that's actually it. So all you do is add it to the pipeline, and you tell it where to store the images. Oh, sorry, I'm lying. The other thing that you need is you need specifically an attribute called image URLs. It has to have that name, and then you have to have another one called images. Image URLs is where you store the image URL where it's going to go to find the image. And images is something that the pipeline itself populates with a dictionary full of extra information. It has like the hash in there of the actual image, and that's what it uses to detect duplicates, so it doesn't try to download the same image over and over again. Okay, so that should be it. So technically,
is the image URL there what is referenced on Reddit verbatim?
Correct.
Or that's not like a JPEG URL?
No, I'm sorry. It's a JPEG URL
Okay,
or an image
It's a
URL.
direct link to the image.
Okay, so if the images just go to Imager and not the JPEG, does that get translated in between?
As long as hitting that URL means getting a response that is the image, like the image bytes, then it's okay. If it doesn't get those image bytes, then it can't do anything with it. It'll fail. I'm actually not sure what it'll do. It'll probably raise an exception. Yeah, Pillow's gonna complain. It's gonna be like, I can't convert this. Give me something else. So yes, this has to return back a response of image bytes for you.
So that's specific for images. What if it was a PDF or
If it was a PDF,
another document?
Or video, audio file.
let's do this one first, and then I'll let people escape, and then we can talk about the download one if that's cool, or downloading anything, because they don't have any convenience features for that, but I have done that already, and I can go ahead and show you how I did that. Okay, so we have everything. It's going to go through this pipeline. Now what we need to do is populate that. So you'll see here that I already have a selector that specifically grabs the thumbnail, grabs the href, and extracts it. And you'll see that images is not in here because we don't need to do anything with images. The pipeline handles that for us. So if I do an LL here, you'll also notice that I have my two directories. Or three directories. I have a Git directory, a logs directory, and a Reddit directory. So let's go ahead and run this guy.
This might kill Stag's head.
Yeah. Oh, see you guys tomorrow. Oh, well, there you go. It's doing something. Oh, it's doing weird things. We'll find out.
It's giving the
Whoa.
info of each.
Yeah, I'm seeing some failures here, so we'll see. We'll see what we got. Cannot identify image.
During your error, it probably just found a non-image.
Isn't that just,
Oh, okay. So that's actually the output for bad images. Okay,
or
so
isn't that just the imager URL that's not the JPEG specifically?
It sounds like what it is.
yeah.
Imager has the link and the link with the extension.
So what?
You're just not filtering those out.
Probably hid images. Just get extra stuff.
Oh, okay. We'll use this guy. I'm not sure what happened here. I think we can get away with this guy.
What happened was sometimes they link to the
Right.
actual Imgur page proper, not the actual image. I don't think it's a problem with your parser.
What is this doing? Okay, this one looks like it. This looked like better output. Oh, some of those did. Yeah, these look like better output. So you'll see right here, image URLs. It actually had the JPEG URL, and then the images thing, the property that I said it would populate. It has a checksum in there to identify duplicate images, and then it also specifies the path where it stored it, and then it just saves the URL again. So if I look at the list, now you'll see that there is an images directory. Inside of there's a full directory. Now the reason it has a full directory is because there's also settings so that it will auto thumbnail for you. We won't go through that today, but the setting is there. You just pass it the width and height.
And Pillow does that.
What's up?
Pillow does that.
Yes, Pillow will be responsible for taking care of that. I'm just going to open this directory instead of trying to open every image. You'll see, downloaded a bunch of images. We don't have the captions with these, but I mean we do, but they're in a they're in a text file. But yes, it downloaded all the images for you. Okay. I'll go ahead and end the presentation there, and then I'll continue to answer any more questions if you guys have any. Or actually, I guess I can answer questions now, but I'll try not to do more
From the
code.
moment you decided to use Scrapy up to this level of proficiency, how long did it take you?
It took me 2 weekends. It took me the weekend that just passed, and then the weekend before that. Originally, I won't go into the full details of the story, but I'd been looking for an excuse to learn Scrapy, and then I recently found out that an organization wanted access to their data, but didn't have access to their data, like the database information. So I figured, hey, this is a wonderful time to use Scrapy to go ahead and extract all the public information and then hand that to them. And then, of course, Glenn was passing by and he was like, hey, what are you learning? Oh, cool, you should present it. And I was like, oh, great. So here I am. So yeah, it doesn't take very long to become proficient in this. It's a framework, and it's very well documented, and it has so many convenient command line features. So you end up typing next to nothing. The hardest parts, honestly, for me were detecting the actual elements using XPath and CSS Selectors. So if that comes easy or natural to you, then you're golden.
Doesn't, I guess it ignores robots and stuff like that?
It does ignore robots. That's your responsibility. So what we've been doing here is kind of mean. I've just been kind of traversing the site and not respecting the robots.txt file. We were using the crawl spider. They also have another one called a robot, and what that one will do is it's much more polite. It goes to the robots.txt file and traverses those links. And then those are the links that you have permission to extract information from. So that one's much nicer. The other thing that we didn't do here, which is also mean, is we didn't specify our user agent. So it even says it right here, like crawl responsibly, identify yourself. There's also more information on side of the actual documentation where they start talking about what websites will do to defend themselves. They'll use everything from cookies to just everything. They'll monitor them, and they can ban you. They can ban your IP address. They can, if you put this on a server, they can ban the server. So just be careful with it. They can see you. Yep. Does that kind of answer?
What about if it's behind a username password?
Oh, okay. So it does, out of the box, it handles basic authentication. Basic authentication, if you guys aren't familiar, it's usually that prompt that you'll see. Kind of looks like the browser's doing it to you, username, password. That one it'll handle. Regular form authentication, where you're carrying around a session, that one takes a little bit more work. I did put in the work to do that one, The reason I did not demo it was because I had to edit the Scrapy code in order to be able to do that. Now I will share that inside of the meetup group. It's not that bad, but I didn't want your first impression of Scrapy, you know. Here, it's super easy to use. Let's first hack the framework. Like that's not very nice. But I can actually show you the front-facing code for that. That's not too big of a deal.
You can always monkey patch it too without.
Yeah, that's true. You can monkey patch it without actually affecting the code itself. That would probably be nicer. It's called Waterfy. Don't laugh. Spiders. There are no. Oh yeah, spiders. Wait. So this is kind of what it looks like. Then you initialize. And all this does is it tells the regular crawler to start crawling. So I go in there, I fill out a form, I grab my session, I put that inside of my own cookie. So whenever I make a request, I'm always making that request with that session information inside of my header. So it is possible, but you do have to mess with the crawler itself a little bit. I'm sorry about that. Any other questions?
Other than the company that lost its database, I don't really see a lot of commercial purpose. Maybe because this is so far from my domain knowledge, but what other things could you use this for?
Besides extracting information, mostly Scrapy was built for extracting information that has no it has no architecture, it has no hierarchy, it's not structured. That's probably the best way to phrase it. It's somebody put something up and like I just want a list of that, or I just want an Excel sheet of that. Can you give me that? And it's like, sorry, you're gonna have to go in there and copy paste it yourself. That's the only time this stuff really comes in useful.
You can do statistical analysis on stuff. Like one of the things I mentioned to him, a lot of people use NLTK to detect. If you want to detect the mood of a website or something, and you want statistics on that, or like the mood of let's take Reddit for example. You want the mood of the subreddit based on words that are actually posted in the subreddit, so you can find the happiest subreddits. You could do something. You could do something like of that sort. Things like that. When I worked at Alert Logic, we didn't use Scrapy. We did a lot of manual parsing and stuff. But we used to parse out a lot of the rule sets for stuff like what's that? The firewall software. I can't think of it right now. But we used to parse out the rule sets and things like that. And there was no they didn't have an API, so it was kind of terrible. You downloaded these rule set files, or you scraped these websites that had the rule sets on them. They had just HTML. So sites that don't provide an API and you need to make an API for its data, then you would scrape it and save it to a persistent database, and then use your own database and keep it updated to make an API.
Okay.
So
basically, it's like you don't have access to the database, you didn't pay for that access or whatever.
And they don't provide an API.
And so you're gonna try and trawl them every 30 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're gonna create your own database of their database.
Correct.
Yeah.
There are actually a lot of financial companies will use this to get current market
Ah.
price for.
Okay.
That's actually a great example. So does anybody here know about Mint? Mint.com?
Yeah.
Okay, so what they actually use, they use scrapers because a lot of financial institutions don't have APIs. They're not into that. What Mint will do is it will actually scrape all of these very popular financial institution sites.
Yeah, it's Intuit that does it now.
There you go. Intuit does it, and that's how they're pulling that financial data from their site and then pushing it into Mint.
Yeah, so
An API doesn't exist, so that's how they get through it.
I wrote the Python API for Intuit's financial customer account data aggregation, and if you've ever noticed on Mint, sometimes if you have a third-party bank, let's say like one of the banks is actually called Carolina Foothills, and you would sign in, every once in a while it makes you go back into Mint and sign back in and stuff like that. It's because they have no APIs at all. There's no way to get the data, so they actually, part of Intuit's job is to write massive amounts of crawlers to crawl all these third-party bank websites, but it's real brittle. That's why it doesn't work all the time. Because as soon as they change some kind of HTML or CSS selector, to then have to update the spider.
Right.
But that's how they go in and get your bank transactions
Yeah.
and pull it all out. And that's why like some banks have more data than others. Some will like actually give you. There's all kinds of data in the actual transaction item itself, but it'll be very limited to like description and amount and stuff like that. And maybe the posted date might be jacked up because the website doesn't have it. So, but he's right. That's a total use case for this, and they probably do use something like Scrapy in the background to get your financial data. They just get your username and password, and then just hit their website and log in for you and scrape your bank data.
So yeah, so if you've ever had to update your Mint account, like that's probably why. Like somebody decided to change some HTML, and now they've lost their API, so now they have to go back in there and rebuild it.
Or it's Wells Fargo and they just 3 months later still can't crawl your Wells Fargo.
Exactly, or that. So
Well,
that
I think Wells Fargo and Chase and Bank of America actually provide API access to that.
I think Wells Fargo said F you and you no longer can get it from there.
Well, then they're just going to do the customer data aggregation stuff for that stuff is free if you're a developer, but it's almost like $1,000 to $1,500 a month if you're a commercial developer. So I guess Chase and Bank of America must charge them a real pretty penny to access their data via APIs. But they kind of funny they built their whole business model on scraping, but that's what they did.
and then okay. Any more questions?
I guess for Glenn in Decidio Health, a lot of new companies looking for developers will scrape websites to find developers.
There's a lot of those on Eli. I was checking out Eli, so it's like, I hope Python jobs running. And a lot of it is web scraping. A lot of it is web scraping job sites.
They'll go through GitHub and see who's like writing the most Python or writing the most JavaScript, and say, hey, let's call that guy.
It's 8:28 right now. I think I can show you this one thing, and then we'll be out by 8:30. You guys were asking about downloading PDFs. So this was the function that we were talking about earlier. I'm using basic Python to do this. All I'm doing is I get the response. I look at the response headers. If I find a content disposition key, which is typically a header that you'll find whenever there's an attachment on the actual file, so PDF files, in this case an XLSX file. Whenever I find that, all I do is I open up a file called export XLX. I can't say that. Export Excel. And then all I do is write the body to the actual file, and then that's it. It literally writes this file and it downloads it in that way. Now, obviously, you can make dynamic file names, but this is all that you're doing. And then I even I give myself a warning. I'm downloading a file. But this will this piece of code will work for anything: PDFs, Excel, whatever.
Log was attached on by you, or is it out of the box from that on the base class?
I didn't get to that. Log is attached. The log comes with Scrapy, and logging is what allows you to. You saw that output that was coming out. You can specify the level. Sorry, I didn't get to that portion of it, guys. But yes, logging comes right out of the box, and that's in the documentation as well. I feel bad now. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I hope you guys learned something.